Hello everybody, this is the Wikstrand. So, Arnold said in an interview, I don't know if this is to be taken seriously or not, but it is kind of a fun story that, you know, if his children misbehaves as a punishment, they are going to have to watch Red Sonja. Red Sonja, for those who do not know it, is a barbarian movie starring Birgit Nilsson and Arnold in a, you know, very, very enhanced cameo, you could say. And I've always wondered why Arnold hates this movie so much. Sure, he was kind of tricked into starring in it, and what was meant to be just a very short cameo appearance ended up being a much bigger role that, you know, he's actually a big part of the marketing campaign and on the poster and all that stuff. So maybe that is the reason why he do not like it, because he was tricked into seeing it. Because Red Sonja, while not being a good movie, it's just a movie that is just slightly less good than, for instance, Conan the Destroyer. But I have always wondered, why isn't he threatened to show them this movie? This is Arnold's debut from 1970, when he actually performed under his short and almost forgotten stage name, Arnold Strong. This is a horrible, surreal and completely messed up experience that is probably the worst movie I've ever seen that I actually, recommend people to see at least once. One question remains before we begin. I read somewhere that Arnold is supposed to be dubbed in this movie. My question is, by who? Because Arnold sounds exactly like, a bored, inexperienced and very, very bad acting Arnold Schwarzenegger in this movie. But he sounds exactly like himself. Is it because I have seen the movie where, his dialogue is restored, or is it just a rumor? I don't know, but we have talked too much about the surroundings of this movie rather than the hokiness and awful enjoyment to be had with this movie. So let's take a look at Arnold's debut film. This is Hercules in New York. Schwarzenegger, Arnold Strong, is of course, playing Hercules, and he constantly butts head with Zeus because he's tired of being on Mount Olympus. He wants to go, and experience things, but Zeus says, no, you have to stay here on Mount Olympus. I don't know what they're doing on Mount Olympus. It doesn't seem to be a lot, and we'll get to that hokey piece of nonsense in a while. But against the will of Zeus, Hercules goes down to Earth, and he ends up, of course, in New York, where he meets this scrawny-looking cab driver played by Arnold Stang, who was this, famous voice actor who also has a very, very iconic look. Look at him. He's not going to be playing First Lovers or Brave Soldiers or Firefighters or anything like that. He looks so fucking scrawny that he has to, run around in the shower to get wet. But the fact is that they're kind of teaming up, and Stang, of course, realizes shortly after that, well, this Hercules guy, he's really, really strong because, he can flip over this cab thing, and he can throw a javelin and discus things, slightly longer than, the top athletes. Yay, Hercules. And he also fights a very fake-looking bear in a fight that is so horribly choreographed that it makes, the Gork William Shatner fight in Star Trek to look basically like something out of a Jet Li movie or something like that. Holy shit, that looks horrible. So they're trying to, cook up some schemes together so that, Stang can, earn money through Hercules. But because Hercules doesn't need money, you see, because he told us so. Most people just assume that Hercules is some weirdo who, has, hit himself in the head and thinks that he is, some kind of a god and stuff like that. But of course, his strength grants him fame, and he's going to start in this wrestling business. And the mob also gets involved, so now we have a movie. And he also befriends this woman who also thinks that Hercules is kind of crazy. But since he is a sort of nice guy and he looks like he does, she's kind of interested in him anyway. Back, however, in Mount Olympus, Zeus, he's furious because Arnold has been gone for a few days, maybe a week tops. Now, considering that, you know, these gods are supposed to be immortal beings, or at least, you know, living for thousands and thousands and thousands of years, a few days or a week of somebody being gone must be like, you know, you leaving your house for 2 seconds and your dad gets mad at you for it. The kid left the house for 2 seconds. I'm fucking furious. And Zeus' ego and some, you know, intrigues and schemes and stuff like that that is going on Mount Olympus is going to have some impact on what's going on Earth, of course. But here's the thing. This movie has so much unintentional humor that it does have this kind of weird, wacky charm to itself, even though the movie is horribly written, horribly directed, has pretty shitty cinematography, and, you know, because the budget was so low, it doesn't look very good, even though it is fascinating to see what New York City looked like in 1970. Even though I will say that the sequence where Arnold commandeers a big ass chariot and rides it down through downtown New York chasing the bad guys, it actually looks kind of cool, and it actually looks kind of epic. Because when are you going to see the former governor of California racing down in a chariot in downtown New York City and chasing the bad guys? Not very many times, I will say. And we also have this problem with Mount Olympus, because Mount Olympus looks so fucking hokey. The costume looks awful, the sets look horrible, and just to make sure that there is no illusion at all of where we are, we can actually hear the traffic in the background, because they shot this in some park in, I think, Italy somewhere. So you can hear actually the honking and the brakes and stuff like that when they're supposed to be in Mount Olympus. Way to go to keep the suspension of disbelief, you fucking idiots. Anyway, so it's not a terrible movie per se. It is bad. Every time Arnold tries to utter a single word, you're thinking, please don't say anything. It sounds horrible. It sounds like somebody fighting in my ears when you try to, you know, form a 2-sentence word, you dumbass. Why did they even given him any lines whatsoever? He should have been a silent character and allowed Stang to do all the talking for him. And while his lines are also kind of dreadful, he at least delivers them convincingly. So, the movie's shtick gets really old really fast, and the action sequences are absolutely dreary. And I can say with some confidence that if people think that Arnold Schwarzenegger is a bad actor, then show them this, and then they will say, no, he's not that bad now that I've seen, you know, this movie. He actually is, in my opinion, a fairly okay actor. It's just that he comes across as a little bit goofy because of his accent and all that stuff. But Arnold always feels like he portrays exactly how he is supposed to be portrayed, because he actually can convince us that he can do all these things that he can do. In this movie, we have no such things, because everything he does, it just looks bad, and every time he says something, it sounds horrible. The movie, however, has his weird charm to itself, and Arnold, even, you know, in this very early stage of his career, he was only 22 years old at the time, does have his weird charm and weird physical charisma that somehow carried this movie through somewhat. Even though it's a movie I'm never going to see again, but if you've never seen it, see it at least once, because it is a surreal and completely unique experience, and you're never bored with the whole thing, even though there's a lot of things that just goes on for you know, quite some times before they decided, well, this scene can be over now, so we can move on. And I don't know, this is just one of these movies that has a, you know, cult following and has this stamp of, you know, being a cult movie. It's still a movie that you will remember and has images in it that you will not forget anytime soon. And as I said, there is a weird charm to it all that makes this movie a little bit more palatable than it would have been, you know, without Arnold, because without Arnold this movie would have been, well, nothing. Hercules in New York is a little tricky to actually rate, but I think that 15 points is actually what it is supposed to get. It is, as I say, not a very good movie. It is a badly written, horrendously directed and ugly looking piece of shit. But it is a strange and somewhat quite enjoyable piece of nonsense that you will not regret seeing, even though it is quite bad. So I'll see you next time from Well So and So Reviewing Well Such and Such. Thank you for watching. Thank you very much.